Welcome back to TBRD. It is quitting time, heading home on this beautiful day. We're going to be talking about the top 5 tips for buying a motorcycle new from a dealership. Number 1. My first tip for those of you out there who are looking to buy a motorcycle new from a dealership is to think about the cost of ownership. So, not just what you're going to pay for the bike new from the dealership, but what is that bike going to cost you over the duration of your ownership. So to better understand that, there's a couple of things you can do. First, you want to know the service intervals. How frequently is that bike going to need to be serviced? And how much are each of those services going to cost? For me, there's no better place to find that information out than asking the dealership themselves. So get in touch with the service department, talk to the service manager, and see what those services are going to run you. The big one that you want to keep in mind is that valve check, right? That valve clearance check service, which depending on the style of bike you're buying could be at 9,000 miles or it could be at 20 or 24,000 miles, and that's going to be a big difference in the cost of ownership of that vehicle over the time that you have it. So you're going to want to know about the cost of ownership. Another tip that I have for you when it comes to cost of ownership is, and really anything in terms of researching a particular bike or several bikes when you're buying them, is log on to the owner's forum for the specific machine that you're looking at buying. When you're on those owners forums, you're going to get a real honest look at what sort of gremlins any machine might possibly have that could end up costing you money during the course of ownership. So logging on to those owners forums, definitely a good way to get informed about the machines that you're looking at. Number 2, the second tip that I have for you if you're looking to buy a brand new motorcycle, get an insurance quote and shop your insurance quotes. When I bought this 2020 BMW S1000XR, as you know if you've watched any of my other videos, I was looking at the Ducati 1260S Multistrada Touring, and I was also looking at a 2019 Triumph 1200 Tiger XRT. And a lot of insurance companies rate their motorcycles differently. Most of them, not all of them, will rate them by engine size. So the bigger the engine, the more it's going to cost to insure. And this is interesting, right? If you're buying a 1200 or a 16 or a 1700 cc cruiser, they may rate that bike much more expensive to insure than, say, a 600 Super Sport. Other insurance companies are going to look at some actuarial data in terms of claims, and you're going to see that the Super Sport motorcycle is rated much, much higher. All this is to say, you really need to shop around. When I bought this, I got 3 different insurance quotes, and 2 of the 3 were double from very reputable companies. You know, names that you'll understand if you're at least stateside. Dairyland Insurance, Geico Insurance, Progressive Insurance, these different companies. One of those companies gave me full coverage with super low $100 deductibles. Everything's covered, anything you can think of, for $297 a year. So it's definitely worth shopping that coverage and understanding what you're going to be paying for insurance over the course of your ownership of that vehicle. Number three, when you're looking to buy a new motorcycle, it's really important to select the right dealership. If you haven't checked out my last video, 5 signs to know that you're working with a great dealership, take a look at it. They're really important. When you're looking to buy a new vehicle, you're going to want to really familiarize yourself with the dealership that you're going to ultimately be working with. At the front end, it's all about the price and the sales department. But over the course of your ownership, it's likely that you're probably going to be going back to that dealer for a lot of service and support. You want to get an idea for how do they treat their customers, both at the front of the house and the back of the house. Take a look around, see how they're interacting with people. For a long time, I consistently went to the same dealership. I thought I had a good relationship with them. I bought many vehicles with them. But as I really took a step back and looked at it, I wasn't treated very well at that particular place. I found that all my service appointments really became something that I dreaded because it was always one thing after another, either in terms of getting in or out of there in a timely fashion, or even occasionally having my bike scratched up while it was in there. These aren't good signs, and you want to make sure that you're selecting the right dealership if you're going to be owning a motorcycle. And sometimes that means you're going to have to drive a little bit further to find that right fit. But as I said, if you haven't checked out the last video, take a look at that. I kind of get into some of those really good signs and indicators that you're working with a great dealership, but it's hugely important. When you're buying a new bike, you want to get an idea for, is your dealer reputable? How are they pricing their bikes, right? Which leads me to point number 4. Number 4, when you're buying a new motorcycle, is pricing, right? And purchasing, the purchase price. So if you're new to buying new motorcycles, really what you want to be familiar with is what we call OTD, or out the door pricing. So that's the price you're going to pay out the door. Lots of rocks here in the middle of the road from the hurricane that blew through. That's the price you're going to pay out the door after taxes, fees. So a couple of things, at least here stateside, that you can expect is that you're going to have the sales price, the sales tax. You're going to have some, the dealer processing fee is one you'll frequently see. You're going to have title and registration fees and possibly a dock fee on there. So you want to see all that spelled out. There's a lot of dealerships that I've worked with that they'll list this outrageously low price, but by the time you get in there and they write everything out and they stick all these fees on there, that bike is actually selling for more than you would get it at another dealership that had it listed a little bit higher. So when you're looking at the price, make sure to take those things into consideration. Number 5. The 5th thing to consider when you're buying a new motorcycle is the actual delivery of that machine. So when you take delivery of your new bike, this is the time to make sure that your salesperson is really going over all the nuances. This is the time you want to ask any last questions, and make sure to ask them all. If you're hooked up with the right dealership, they're going to be happy to stay there and answer those for you. So a couple of little subtle things. Like when I got this top case put on this bike, I find that all the luggage and top cases and panniers, they all are a little bit different in terms of how they go on and off the bike, how you open them, how you lock them. I asked when I got this one put on, because it was different from my multi-strada, literally, how do I open the top case? I couldn't figure it out. I felt silly. I felt a little less silly after I asked the salesperson and they couldn't get it done, and then they had to have the tech come out and kind of walk me through it. Was it a big deal? No, but it saved me a ton of time and aggravation when I got home. So when you take delivery on your new machine, make them really go over all those questions for you, whether it's going over the TFT, any of the modes, or the different farkles, if you will, that your bike comes with. You want to understand how those work. Yes, you've got your owner's manual, but it's really helpful to have someone walk you through that the first time. So that's the 5th tip that I have for you when it comes to purchasing a new motorcycle. That is going to about do it for me. I'd appreciate it if you like the content we're putting out and you're checking this out. If you could please like the video, and also leave me a comment about some things maybe I haven't thought of as far as buying a new motorcycle, or ones that maybe I did think of that you hadn't thought of. I'd love to hear from you. Definitely get back to you. And as I like to say, until next time, keep the throttle back, the rubber down, and enjoy the ride.